Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is Rubidium. Today we are talking Trump, tariffs, and why most of the camera gear we buy is about to get 35% more expensive. So here in the United States, there is an ongoing trade war between the US and China. It's been going on for quite a long time, at least the last 3 presidencies, because China has a way of running its economy that is disadvantageous to the United States, and the United States wants it to change. Now we have a president here in the US who is determined to dig in and force China's policies to change. The policies in China that most American companies and governments are annoyed about are pretty wide-ranging and very flagrant. The cyber attacks is a big one, where the Chinese government attacks American companies and steals their intellectual property, or basically hurts their ability to compete with Chinese firms. There are currency manipulation to make the Chinese dollar worth less so that they can sell more of their goods overseas. There is forced technology transfer, where if you want to build a car or a computer or phone in China, it forces you to do sort of a collaboration with a native Chinese company and share all your trade secrets. What often happens is not long after those secrets get out and you're competing in China and in America with Chinese competitors who now know how to make what you make or sell what you sell. In the tech sector, it's even worse. China has shut out Facebook, Google, eBay, and a variety of other things, and in return, basically just copied their business model and their technology and made their own versions of those things. China does this for a variety of reasons. One, it is a very large economy that needs to grow very quickly if the Communist Party there are going to keep power. So the current president, using his emergency powers, it would seem, has put a 25% tariff on the majority of goods coming from China to America. On September 1st, that went up to an extra 10%. So we now have 35% tariffs on goods coming from China. What that means is if something would be made in China and sell in America for $100. The US government is now forcing that company to add an extra $35 to the price tag, which it then takes. It's almost like the government's just helping itself to other people's money in the name of trade deals. But it certainly is going to force American companies who manufacture in China to think about manufacturing in the United States. And that's what a lot of them are doing. The new Mac Pro is actually going to be made in the US because the way that automation is going, it's actually not that much more expensive to manufacture in the US when you factor in shipping and transport. The reason prices haven't really gone up yet is that most manufacturers had back orders or still had stock. So if you're going to buy a camera from B&H, there was still, 500 or 5,000 Sony cameras sitting in their warehouse. So they haven't been forced to add that 35% markup to the camera yet. Now we're, almost a month in, and most manufacturers wouldn't keep more than a month of stock on hand, or most retailers. So we're kind of getting into the point where they're going to have to buy more stock. Everyone was hoping this would be resolved quickly, so prices wouldn't go up. But the crazy thing is it's going to affect all manufacturers at the same time, because most cameras and lights and tripods are made in China. So all of that stuff is about to get 35% more expensive. And some brands are in a position where they can absorb some of that cost. They can trade without a profit, because 35% is more than the 10% profit most products have on them. It's like really eating into that company's operating margins. So most companies have been willing to eat some of that for some of the time, give discounts, sell older goods, repurpose some things. But a month into this with no real end in sight, they're going to have to start passing that cost on to the consumer. They just can't absorb it any longer. What does this mean? If you're planning a big purchase, you should probably purchase it soon. before prices go up. Two, I think, there's an untenable situation with China as far as America is concerned, having all their manufacturing done overseas by a sometimes friendly, sometimes not friendly government. And so what a lot of camera, light, film technology manufacturers are doing is working out how they can move that somewhere closer, somewhere cheaper. Also somewhere they can keep the technology in-house and not have to share that with a Chinese company, which is how a lot of things get stolen. A couple of people that I've spoken to are really interested in moving technology to the US, which I hate to say is kind of working in a sense, but it's gonna make us all pay more for what we buy on a regular basis in the meantime, because there's 6 months to a year before people are going to set up shop. And I hate to say, but the machines that make a lot of these things are made in China. So it's going to add to their setup cost at a time when everything's more expensive. It's definitely not a great time to be a small independent camera gear manufacturer, because things are so volatile and there's so many risks, and Trump can double that tariff tomorrow and you'd be out of business. Your $500 light is going to be $1,500, and your competition that's made somewhere else, it's going to be a lot cheaper. That is my look at the current US-China trade war, how it's going to affect goods shipped to China. Another way around this is to drive somewhere that is not being used as part of a tariff discussion. This is what Brazilians do all the time to buy their cameras and technology, because Brazil has really high tariffs. You could, for instance, take a trip to Mexico and buy things down there. There's no Mexico-China trade war going on. We also might see things that were made in China being, shipped to somewhere like Singapore, rebranded and sold on. That's what happened in my whole childhood. All the toys were made in Hong Kong. They were really made in China, but because China and the US had no trade agreement, because China was a communist country, it still is, everything was shipped through Hong Kong and made to look like it was a Hong Kong product, not a Chinese product. Ultimately, as filmmakers, we can't really afford to eat that cost, just like the retailers can't. We'll have to add 30% to the value that the price that we rent our gear out to our customers, or increase our prices, and so on and so on. Everything gets passed on. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.